We are back for another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You know, I was out on a walk the other day, in fact, yesterday with Jennifer, and we crossed the local train tracks, and we saw a group of guys. They had 2 or 3 trucks with them, and there are like 5 or 6 of these people, and they're all in hard hats, and they had their equipment, and you know, it's summertime. It's hot here. They kind of take their time getting set up. Mm-hmm. And we were very curious what they were doing. They had a lot of equipment. And I told Jennifer, I said, you know what I should do? I should become one of those guys, like in Italy, the retirees who stand around.
The Umarell.
The Umarell. I couldn't remember the name. I was explaining to her about the Umarell. I said, I could go wander around my town, because there's always something going on somewhere, right? Somebody's digging a hole.
Your arms behind your back, just observing peacefully, the construction zone.
Giving advice, unsolicited advice. Asking them what they're doing, why they're doing it, who approved this project. There's all sorts of things. Because honestly, I told Jenna, she's a little bit like the Umarell, because she will go up to these guys and she will just ask them lots of questions and get the lowdown on what's going on in the neighborhood. And she didn't do it yesterday. She knew I'd be a little embarrassed. But usually when she's by herself, she'll walk up to them and, they like to take a break anyway. And they'll explain to her all of what they're doing. But they were digging deep holes along some train tracks, and I have no idea what they were doing. But maybe they'll probably be back today, because it looked like a multi-day project. So maybe we'll go out later today and ask them some questions.
That's incredible. Can I just read you the Wikipedia description for the Umarell?
Yes, please.
Umarell are men of retirement age who spend their time watching construction sites, especially roadworks, stereotypically with hands clasped behind their back and offering unwanted advice to the workers.
This is a very particular Italian thing that we talked about like years ago now on Mac Stories Unwind, or on Mac Stories Unplugged, I think, actually, but when that was a separate show. And it came back to me yesterday, all in a rush, as we saw these 5 people digging holes. So I thought I would share that with you. And Jennifer has joined the Umarell.
Yeah, it's a stereotypical, but also very true. And I think I mentioned before, obviously the name, which is I think it's the name is like a bolognese. So when I say bolognese, I don't mean the pasta sauce,
right.
Although that's what you Americans hear.
Yes.
It's from, I mean, the adjective of from the city of Bologna. In the Bolognese dialect, Umarell means little man, and it's used for mockery. It's
sure, like little old men who are standing around.
Little old men, giving me advice. But actually, very often, these are, lonely, elderly people who just have nothing to do. They're retired, and maybe they're lost their partners. Maybe they don't have grandkids, or maybe their grandkids moved away, their children moved away, and that's just what they do. And often, if you ever happen to have a few minutes, maybe strike up a conversation with them, because and I do occasionally, there's always this gentleman who, hangs out, the neighborhood where I live. It's still, pretty much a construction site in some places. And I can see this gentleman, this particular person always hanging out and watching the workers, and just, and every once in a while I stop with my dogs and I'm like, hey, and they're always so eager to talk, and because, it's actually pretty sweet if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's their entertainment, and that's kind of the melancholy aspect of it, I suppose. Yeah. But it's nice of you to talk to them, because yes, sometimes people just want, a little human contact, and
they just want to talk. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So I have a bit of a project in the works.
Of course,
that I
you
want to talk about. Prime Day is coming up.
Yes, it is.
And I need to switch my outdoor cameras. My Logi Circle finally gave up. It's not working anymore.
Mine gave up when I moved to North Carolina for some reason too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost as if they can detect the move. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what happened, but I had to throw it away, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think I will need either 2 or 3 outdoor cameras.
Okay.
They have to be IP67, so they need to be weatherproof. Like it's gonna rain, it's gonna be windy, it's gonna be cold. Like they need to be absolutely ready for that. Ideally, one of them should be, if possible, wire free. 2 of them I can connect to a power outlet, and I think it's gonna be fine. One of them that I wanna place where some of the potted plants that I have, I want to place it there. I think that will need to be wire free because I cannot run power to that angle, to that corner of the balcony.
Let me ask you something about your balcony, because I think people will wonder this. You live on a high floor in your building. Why do you need cameras outside? Because people might climb down the balcony or up the balcony or use the ladder?
Yeah.
Or...
That's the concern. Yeah, that's the concern.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood the concern. I know you've actually told me that in the past, and I get it. But I think some people would wonder, like, if you're on a higher floor, why that would even be an issue. But that's obviously an issue.
And also, like, there's... this is going to sound so stupid, but I'm going to mention it anyway. So we have, one of the things we have outside is a series of pretty large pots with laurel plants. You know, the
Are those
laurel?
the ones that climb the vines that climb up the sticks?
No, the laurel is like, you know how... What do you call them? Do you call them bay plants? No, laurel. That's the name of the plant.
I think so. I just don't know what it is personally. I mean, I've heard the name before.
So you know, like ancient Romans, how they would make a crown out of leaves and put it on their... Yeah, that's like a laurel crown, basically.
Okay.
And that plant, those leaves, they are, you know, you can actually use them for like teas. You can use them for cooking. Like
I just looked it up, and the Britannica Encyclopedia website calls it the bay laurel, which I assume is like
the bay laurel.
Bay leaves,
bay laurel.
which are you use in cooking a lot.
Yeah, bay leaves. So there you go. Yeah, in Italian it's alloro. That's how we call it, and the Latin, like the scientific name, is Laurus nobilis. That's how the Romans used to call it. So anyway. One of the things that we are concerned it's happening is we think the neighbor is stealing the leaves from the plant because there's one. Oh my
gosh! How do they reach them?
Well, because the balconies are connected. And
I see. Like, so they're reaching over and getting.
They're reaching over and they're grabbing the leaves from the plant. We have this suspicion. Because one of the plants, the left side, is emptier and emptier by the day.
No.
Now, obviously, the dogs are not reaching up for the plant, you know?
No.
I am convinced that they're using the leaves for cooking.
This seems like a very, very particular Federico conspiracy theory. I mean, I got to tell you.
Well, okay, I know that people are going to make fun of me. I am convinced that somebody is grabbing the leaves from the plant, and I want to
get your own laurel plant, neighbors.
I just wanna place the camera in a way that I can see the hand reaching over, and grabbing the leaves. You know,
I'm with you on that.
Right. So anyway, that's my property.
Do you need recommendations?
So I was doing some research, and I obviously don't want to buy any more Logi Circle cameras. I was looking at the Eufy cameras.
Eufy. I thought you were going to say Hue.
No. Eufy. EUFY. That's the Anchor sub-brand, I think. I know that there was a privacy controversy a few years back.
There was a few years. It was quite a while ago.
Yeah, it seems to have been resolved, and now these cameras, I think, based on what I've read, you can set up without an internet connection. You can enable HomeKit secure video. It appears, if my understanding is correct, it appears you need to buy, for some of these cameras, you need to buy an additional device called a home base, which is basically like this little station that creates a specific wireless network. So the home base is the one that talks to the internet, but then it creates like a low frequency, like a sub 900 megahertz network to talk to the cameras locally, and then the home base talks to the internet. I'm looking at that.
Do they require the hub? Or is the hub like an optional thing?
Some of them do. Some of them do, because the cameras themselves, they don't connect to Wi-Fi for power consumption purposes.
Right.
They connect to this low energy wireless network. So I'm looking, and I guess if listeners have any recommendations for me with Prime Day coming up in about 10 days or so, in about 2 weeks, I'm looking at the Homebase 3. I know that it's the latest one, and I was looking at this Eufy Cam. There's many of them, which is why I'm a little confused at the moment. There's the 2C, the 2C Pro. There's also the Eufy Cam 2 and the Eufy Cam 2 Pro. I'm not sure what the difference is with all these 2s and all these Cs. So if anybody's using these Eufy Cams, please let me know what you think and which models you have. Yeah, so, and one of these has powered by 4 AA batteries with battery life advertised for up to a year, which I don't necessarily believe, but even if I have to switch the batteries, like say twice a year, that would be fine. So,
yeah, that seems that would be okay with me too. My guess is that they're only actually recording once they detect motion or something, and that's how they're saving power. Would be my guess. I if I were doing this right now, I would probably look at the Eufys myself. I did test a Hue outdoor camera, and I didn't like it, not because it wasn't good hardware. It was very well designed, and it works really well, but it only works with the Hue app. And Hue's really trying to get people to buy their own, their subscription plan for security and that kind of thing. And as a result, it doesn't work with the HomeKit thing. And it doesn't, in fact, even show up in the Home app. And even though I've had this thing installed for 2 or 3 months at this point, I never go look at it, and that's kind of defeats the purpose. So I would not recommend the Hue one at all.
Yeah, so that's what I've been researching over the past few days.
All right, well, we should go to picks now. I have a quick pick for you, Federico, which is one of the things I've been doing. Is I've been kind of doing the whole kind of summer action movie thing on the weekends, just watching things, not going to the theater yet, although we've been looking at the local theater. We might go see a movie one of these weekends. But I watched Trigger Warning, which is a brand new Netflix movie starring Jessica Alba. And I would say, the thing about Netflix is, Federico, is I have very low expectations of their movies going in. Yes, they do make a few movies here and there that are designed to win them awards, and those often are quite good. But by and large, Netflix movies are a little bit, in my mind, the equivalent of the old TV movies, or I don't know, Hallmark Channel movies. I don't know, they just kind of churn them out. But Jessica Alba, big star, and this is quite a fun movie. It's an action movie where Jessica Alba plays a character she's in the military, she's in the Middle East, and she's on a crew, and they're doing all these like special ops type things, and she's very handy with a knife. And so right up front, they set her up as kind of a Jason Bourne-like character. And she, though, is called back unexpectedly to Texas, where she grew up, because her father has died. And she goes back home. She kind of reconnects with family members and, old boyfriends and other people from her town. And a mystery is afoot, because it's not so straightforward that her father had just kind of died in an accident. There may have been foul play involved. And I'm not going to give away the plot of this movie, but it follows a pretty tried and true formula in terms of she sticks around Texas. She's investigating what happened to her father. And she finds some, a story that's much bigger than anything she could have ever imagined. And in the pursuit of the bad guys, ends up, doing all kinds of fun car chases and fight scenes, and eventually prevails in the end, as all these movies tend to end. But if you're looking for something that's just kind of a fun fluff movie that's fun and action packed, I think Trigger Warning on Netflix is a pretty good way to go for a Friday night.
Very nice, very nice. I have a bit of a mini pick this week. I started watching The Bear season 3, which is all the 10 episodes are now out. At least in the US. I thought I was gonna find it on Disney Plus in Italy, but it's the moment I looked, which is like the day it came out on the 27th. I want to say last week.
That was just a few days ago.
It was not available in Italy, so I had to use a VPN on my Apple TV and sign up for a Hulu subscription on my iPhone. I started watching on Hulu. Now, just one thing I want to say: I did not really like episode 1. So it was like a flashback episode. Done in a very weird way, with like this music, like this haunting music all throughout this 36 minutes of flashback after flashback for like different sequences, many of which we've seen before. Like, I think the authors were trying to go for like, here's how we can contextualize some of Carm's like decisions using flashbacks for scenes that you may have seen before, maybe from a slightly different angle, or things that were hinted at on the show before. Sort of bring them all together. But it's basically like this flashback episode that, like, it was cool the first 10 minutes. And then after a while, CB and I started going, okay, can you please, speed it up, get a move on here.
Right, have like a regular episode.
Like, we get it, okay. And it never sped up. Like, it was like 36 minutes of flashbacks. And yeah, I didn't really like it. It's like when I see these episodes, it's like, oh, you can tell this is the episode where they didn't know what to do, or like it's the classic filler episode because they needed to waste a bunch of money just to fill one episode, and they didn't know how. And it's like, I don't know. And episode 2 picks up with the classic Bear style of like fast-paced dialogue and actual story. I just didn't know what they were doing with the first episode of season 3. It's like, okay, it's a giant flashback episode. Like, you could have done previously on the Bear and like even do it for 5 minutes instead of 1 minute. Like, do it for 5 minutes, but not 36. I mean, Jesus, So anyway, that's the only negative note. And then started with episode 2. It's the Bear, so it's great, and it's great. I love it.
All right. I do wonder if they did that because the Bear, I think, has been kind of a slow burn in a lot of ways. Like, I feel like that show it's been picking up new viewers, long after season 1 was completed, and maybe they felt like that's why they needed to contextualize more of it, because maybe someone was just starting with season 3.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I don't really know. I mean, the thing about the Bear is, like, we talked the other week about how I've bounced off a lot of series this year. That's one that I bounced off of. I actually liked it. Jennifer didn't like it, at least in the first, I guess, episode or 2 of season 1. I think we might try it again, though, because I did kind of enjoy it being set in Chicago and everything, since I was, I lived there for so many years. But yeah, I've not gotten beyond a couple of episodes in season 1, so I should probably give that a try this summer. I don't know. All right, Federico, I guess that's it for today. We've got a couple of good picks. Now that all those episodes are out, it's time to start watching season 3 of The Bear, or, rewind all the way to the beginning like I need to do and binge the whole thing. Or check out Trigger Warning, because it's quite a good movie too. We will be back in another week. In the meantime, you can find us at macstories.net. We are on Mastodon. Just go to vitici.macstories.net and johnvorhees.macstories.net. And we're on Instagram and Threads. Federico is at Vitici. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.